All right, so researchers studied the behavior of birds that were searching for seeds and insects in an Oregon forest. In the forest, 54% of the trees were Douglas firs, 40% were ponderosa pines, and 6% were other types of trees. At a randomly selected time during the day, the researchers observed 156 red-breasted nuthatches, 70 were seen in Douglas firs, 79 in ponderosa pines, and 7 in other types of trees. Do these data suggest that nuthatches prefer particular types of trees when they're searching for seeds and insects? Carry out a chi-square goodness of fit test to help answer this question. So, we want to perform a test at the alpha equals 0.05 significance level of, so our null hypothesis is the proportion of the birds in the firs would be 0.54, the proportion of the birds in the pines would be 0.40, and the proportion of the birds being in other types of trees is 0.06. Versus the alternate hypothesis is at least one of these is incorrect, right? So basically, we're going to see if the actual number of birds coincides with the proportion of trees in the forest, right? And if there's a discrepancy, then we'll know that the nuthatches do prefer certain trees over others. So we should do a chi-squared goodness of fit test if the conditions are satisfied. So a randomized sample was used, right? So we need to make sure that it is a large enough sample size. So the expected counts in each category must be bigger than 5. So these are these expected. So remember, there was 156 nuthatches, and the proportion of pines was 0.54. So this is equal to 84.24, which is bigger than or equal to 5. And we can already see maybe a little bit of a discrepancy because 70 were in Douglas firs, right? But our expected is 84, right? So there might be a discrepancy. They might prefer certain trees over others. But let's go ahead and find the expected of pines. So this was 0.40, so 0.40. And this is 62.4, which is bigger than or equal to 5. And then the other is 156 times 0.06, which is 9.36, which is bigger than or equal to 5. So all of these check, so it is a large enough sample size. So now the independent is 156 is definitely less than or equal to a tenth of n, where n represents the number of red-breasted nuthatches, so I think that's safe to say. So that means all the conditions are met. So now we're actually going to do our chi-square. So it is the sum of the observed minus the expected over the expected. Well, observed minus expected squared over expected. So this is equal to, so 70 minus 84.24 squared over 84.24, because 70, remember, was the number observed in the Douglas firs, right? And 84.24 was the expected. So plus 79 minus 62.9 squared over 62.9. Even looking at this, it looks like they're going to be, this is not going to pass, right? All right, so plus 7 minus 9.36 squared over 9.36. And this is equal to a 7.418. And so the way we get degrees of freedom is we have the number of categories. So in this case, it was 3, and we subtract 1. So 3 minus 1, which is 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our table. So as you can see, I highlighted these areas. And remember, it was 7.418. So 7.418 would be in between 0.25 and 0.02. So it would be, the p-value is between 0.02 and 0.025. So this tells me that the p-value is definitely less than 0.05. So since the p-value is less than the significance level of 0.05, we reject H naught, right? H naught, which stated that the proportion of birds or the proportion of trees coincided with the number of birds that went into those trees, right? So we can definitely see that we have to reject H naught and say that yes, some birds do prefer going in certain trees, right? So, and conclude that the nuthatches prefer particular types of trees when searching for seeds and insects.